But here's the cold, hard truth. When you support a system designed to target people like you, don't be surprised when you end up in the crosshairs. It's all fun and games until you become collateral damage in the movement you cheered for. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how loud you cheered, how many times you said build the wall, or how much you idolized a man who saw you as nothing more than a political pawn. Moral of the story? If you're going to ride for a con man, make sure you're not the one getting conned.
They just got out of the car with the guns in the hands and say, turn off the car, give me the keys, open the window. And at this point, they didn't ask me for any ID. I was telling the officer if I can give him the ID, but he said that just keep my hands up, not moving. After that, he told me to get out of the car, and then he put the handcuffs on me. And then he went to me and said, how did I get into this country? And if I was waiting for court or if I have any case. And he looked at his other partner like, you know, smiling, like saying, can you believe this guy? At this point, I was with handcuffs sitting on the sidewalk. And then he took my ID and saw that it was a real ID. The other guy said, take the handcuffs off, take the handcuffs off. I was a Trump supporter. I voted for Trump the last elections, but because I thought it was going to be the things, you know, like be pointless, like just go against criminals, not every illegal Hispanic looking like that they will assume we are illegals. That's what they're doing now. They're just following Hispanic people looking like, because they didn't ask me for anything.
In other news, an ICE raid at a construction site took an unexpected turn when one worker refused to come down from the roof. ICE had received a tip that several workers on site were allegedly undocumented, so they stormed in, rounding up as many as they could. But one man, he wasn't going anywhere. See, these weren't just any construction workers, they were roofers, literally in the middle of installing a roof when ICE showed up. And this particular worker, he simply stood his ground, or rather, his roof. The officers shouted up at him, "Come down now!" His response, "If you want me, climb up and get me." Now, you have to respect the audacity. This man knew his advantage. ICE officers, dressed in tactical gear and probably not accustomed to balancing on a half-finished rooftop, weren't exactly built for climbing ladders and chasing roofers. But still, they tried. One officer, clearly eager to prove himself, grabbed a ladder and started climbing. Big mistake. Because roofing isn't a job for the untrained. It's dangerous, it requires balance, and if you don't know what you're doing, you'll look like a newborn deer trying to walk for the first time. And that's exactly what happened. The officer failed miserably. The worker watched from above, probably shaking his head in amusement as the officer struggled to gain footing before giving up. At this point, the other ICE agents had a choice. Keep trying to climb up and risk an embarrassing viral moment, or cut their losses and walk away. They chose the latter. After nearly 6 hours of negotiations, failed attempts, and probably a lot of sweating in tactical vests, ICE officers gave up and left. And just like that, the rooftop warrior won.
So someone tipped ICE agents that there were a lot of...
Our protagonist, a die-hard Trump supporter, red hat and all, was minding his business when immigration officers swooped in. Now, most people in that situation would panic, but not him. He was confident, almost smug. There must be a mistake, he thought. I'm one of the good ones.
A police car behind me put the lights on, so I stepped on the side, right, to let him pass through, but it didn't happen, so he just parked in front of my car, the other one parked behind me.
Determined to clear up the confusion, he did what any law-abiding MAGA voter would do. He declared his unwavering support for Trump. I voted for him. I love him, he pleaded, expecting ICE agents to pause, maybe even shake his hand for being a model citizen. Instead, crickets. His next move? The ID flex. He whipped out his identification like it was a backstage pass to the American dream. Surely, this would settle things. But much to his horror, ICE wasn't moved. See, their job isn't to sort people by voting record, it's to enforce policies that, ironically, his beloved candidate championed. And that's when it hit him. He had FAFO'd. We know MAGA voter found out the hard way that loyalty to a political con artist doesn't come with a loyalty card. No discounts, no immunity, no special treatment. Just a one-way ticket to reality, courtesy of ICE. So here's how it all went down.
He told you the whole entire election cycle that this would happen. You said we were fear-mongering and it was fake news. Does it feel like fake news now that it has happened to you? Probably not. You're now regretting your vote and walking it back The thing about you guys, and it happens to be a trend, is you do not seem to care until it happens to you. It's almost like the EQ development doesn't happen until it comes knocking at your doorstep, and then all of a sudden you understand that your vote has consequences. Now that you've suffered. This is a U.S. citizen. He voted for Donald Trump. He's Hispanic. He even had a pro-Donald Trump bumper sticker on the bed of his truck. Yeah, he was illegally detained by ICE. He was literally profiled, and he himself in that clip admits to feeling that that is what happened to him. They put him in handcuffs even though he had a real ID proving his citizenship status.
So this is a wild story. A Trump voter was detained by ICE with guns drawn in Northern Virginia. He offered to show ID to the officers to prove he was an American citizen, but they handcuffed him anyway. Now the man says he's reconsidering his support for Trump and says he was targeted for being Hispanic.
As expected, the internet did not hold back. When ICE spends 6 hours trying and failing to arrest a man who literally does extreme labor for a living, people are going to have thoughts. And let's just say, the comment section turned into an absolute battlefield. First up, Lanita, tuning in all the way from Canada, drops this mic. The real criminals are inside the White House. Ah yes, the classic change the subject maneuver. Why focus on a guy refusing to climb down when you can redirect the conversation to Washington, D.C.? Lanita, we hear you, but unless ICE is planning a surprise raid on Capitol Hill, let's keep the topic on the roof. Then AM27 asked the question on everyone's mind. What are they doing? Who do they think will install the roofs on houses? I'm so tired of this hatred towards immigrants, the ones that work the hardest. And honestly, fair point. If ICE keeps this up, homeowners better start watching DIY roofing tutorials, because something tells me Chad from the suburbs isn't about to climb a ladder in 95-degree heat. Meanwhile, Andre Giddin, 145, has a different take. Although I don't agree with how this administration is handling this situation, he is a criminal. Which Bob follows up with a savage counterpunch. So, like the sitting president. And folks, that's where the floodgates opened. Because at this point, the conversation had officially left the rooftop and landed straight in political debate territory. But let's zoom out for a second, because today's stories have been a masterclass in irony. First, we had a Latino MAGA voter who found out the hard way that blindly supporting a movement built on exclusion doesn't mean you won't get excluded yourself. He was detained by ICE, pleaded his case, waved his ID like a VIP pass, but still, no dice. A harsh reality check. Then we jumped to an ICE raid on a construction site where officers tried and failed to capture a roofer who simply refused to come down. The standoff lasted 6 hours until ICE officers, after some questionable ladder attempts, simply gave up. And through it all, the internet had a field day, turning the comments section into a mix of political hot takes, labor economy think pieces, and straight-up comedy. So, what does this all say about America today? Are these just isolated incidents, or do they tell a bigger story about immigration, labor, and who really keeps the country running? Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next crazy story. This is Trend Feed, bringing you the moments that make headlines and the ones that should. See you in the next one.
So you voted for Donald Trump and you got detained by ICE. You're an American citizen and you got detained by ICE. You're a Mexican American. You were born here in the United States and you voted for Donald Trump and you got detained by ICE and they ain't give a fuck whatsoever, to the point where they put you in the detention center, okay? Now you want to rethink your vote for him. Now you want to rethink the process, because now you know how it feels to be dragged out of your home, separated from your family, not given a choice or a chance to say goodbye, put into a damn cage with aluminum damn covers and set there until you're pushed over the border without being able to contact anybody and let anybody know you're coming. You got exactly what the fuck you voted for. You voted for a man that has no heart for anybody but white people and the 1%. What do you think was going to happen?
Undocumented immigrants working on a roof of a house in Alabama. And they were right. There were about 8 undocumented immigrants working on the roof. When the ICE agents showed up, they apprehended about 7 of them except one. The young man you see on top of the roof, he was from Guatemala, and he refused to come down to get arrested. In fact, he told the ICE agents, "You want to arrest me? Come get me." He positioned himself on the highest point of the roof of the house. And there, the ICE agents, "Come get me, bro." The agents surrounded the house and tried to negotiate with him. In fact, they threatened him. They said, "If you don't come down, you're going to have additional charges." And he said, "I'm going to take my chances." Finally, one of the agents got on a ladder, only to find out that he was not going to make it all the way to the top. And after 6 long hours of trying to negotiate with this young man, they decided to leave empty-handed. He wasn't carjacking a vehicle. He was not wheeling dealing on the streets. He was simply installing a roof on the house. This is what this administration would like you to think are the criminals that they're trying to get rid of. By the way, these ICE agents spent 6 hours trying to apprehend one undocumented immigrant. I just wonder how long it's going to take them to apprehend 13 million of them.